Oh, well, hello and good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's doing good. Hope everybody. It's like I'm 5 seconds into the stream and I already can't speak, so this is going to turn out just fantastic. I can already tell. I can already tell. Oh my goodness. So it is uh, February, and there is a second R in there. Everybody wants to say February, but it's February. Does anybody say February? Just wondering. I'm asking for a friend, to be honest with you. But yeah, it is February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day, and here on the East Coast, it's a snowy day. So it's 2021, and there's supposed to be a big old pile of snow coming in. So I'm excited. That just means it's very bright outside. It's actually it's 300% brighter outside than it is inside. So let's go ahead and get some things rolling over here. So I hear somebody talking downstairs. I think it's Alexa. Alexa is going crazy. I have Alexa hooked up to these like amazing Bose speakers, but what that basically means is that every time somebody says something, it just goes through the whole house, like just like boom. But today here at the Warrior Beat Studios, here the photography studios, also Benjamin Lehman Photography, Emotive Design, we do a lot of stuff. We do a lot of stuff. I mean, everything we do is business related. It seems like there's no personal anymore. There's only business. We're going to be taking some photos of rocks. I know that sounds weird, and it is a little bit weird, but there's reason. There's reason for it, and that's because somebody has asked us to. When somebody is asking you to do something, you do it, okay? Especially if you need to learn how to do it. And learning is a great thing. So here we go. Here's one of the rocks right here. So this is what's called a beer quartz, B-E-E-R, as in the drink quartz. And we're going to be taking photos of this today. Here in this tiny little studio that we have a whole bunch of little satellite studios in this space, and this is one of them. And this one is set up specifically for sort of shoot through glass tables. And you can see you can't see my face today. That's probably the best thing to happen for you guys because let's face it, I don't have a pretty face. And it would really just bring the stream quality down. But I am wearing tan corduroys, so that brings the stream quality up. And to get back on the topic here about this stuff here, what we've got, and I'll pan the camera a little bit here, but you can see a tripod. And this tripod has a camera on it right up here, and we will look at that camera here very shortly. But I want to go through some of the other components real quick. The stuff that's really important for what we're doing today is this big piece of plastic. It's not even that big. It's like 2 foot by I think like 4 feet. And you can buy this type of plastic on Amazon.com for like $30. So it's fairly cheap. Because it's rocks get dirty. So we've got a little bit of water here and a little bit of generic window cleaner. I don't know why people are so hesitant to use brand names, like they're going to come after you. Or maybe it's like, oh, the brand name's not paying me to mention them, so I'm not going to do it. I mean, one day I'm going to be worth millions. But you know what? It's Windex, okay? It's basically off-brand Windex. That's what we all know it. We'll call it glass cleaner for now, though. And obviously what we're doing, because rocks can be dirty, they come from the earth. Rocks, they are just intrinsically a little bit dirty here. So after every time we do something, we'll probably end up spraying down this white stuff here, and that'll be that. In fact, if I go like this, if I turn this camera back on, oh, the sound of cameras connecting. I should be able to go to live view here real quick. And then let's switch scenes so you can see what I'm talking about. Transition, please. So this little dark sort of tan area there is our live view. And I don't know, will they let me zoom in on this or not? Sometimes they don't. Once you're in live view, they get really ornery about what you're able to do. But anyway, here in live view Lania, And we're not really worried. The fact that we can't see things right now in live view, that's not important because we're not going to be shooting in live view. But what I wanted to show you, and you can kind of see it, so these little scratches and marks and stuff, that's okay. That is going to happen when you're taking rocks and they get moved all around. It's not that big of a deal, okay? So don't worry if you get like a plastic thing and you spend $30 on it and you start getting scratches. The way that we take pictures, we shouldn't be able to see those scratches at all by the time we're done, okay? And then we also have some Photoshop techniques that we'll be using if for some reason. What was that, Pinion? My dog is down here. His birthday was yesterday. My dog's birthday is on Valentine's Day. And he ready to party. He loves soccer. He's had knee surgery, so he doesn't have the greatest knees in the world, so he can't play soccer like he used to. He is 9 years young. He is a youngin'. He is a Australian cattle dog rat terrier mix, so I'm expecting him to live 40 years. But even at the young age of 9 years old, his knees are just a little bummer. But I'll be honest with you, he's put a lot of miles on those knees, so that's probably part of it. So I feel bad that he doesn't get to run around as crazy as he used to, but he doesn't seem to care. I gave him his soccer ball. That's his favorite thing, was playing soccer, and he's playing it right now with me. This is like low impact, low calorie soccer that we're playing off camera. Trust me, it's cute. I wish you could see it. You'd be like, "Aw." So let's go like this. Okay, so I think I can probably tilt. Let me see if I can tilt this camera up so you can see what's going on. There we go. It's a little bit hard to see. Background's a little bit cluttered, but right here, this is an old school 5D Mark III. Yes, a 5D Mark III with the cheap, this is the cheap 50 millimeter 1.4. The best lens I think any photographer should buy. If you're a Canon user and you're new or old and you don't have this, you're really just like taking something amazing out of your toolkit. There's no reason not to have a 50 millimeter 1.4. This lens, if all of your lens go down in an airplane crash, that you're not on and nobody's on, it was a drone, right? So everything goes down in a drone crash, and all you have is this camera, a 5D Mark III, which is fairly inexpensive now, and this lens, a 1.4 50 millimeter. You're in good shape. There's no job that you can't do. I mean, and I honestly mean that. Like even landscape work where you had to get massive vistas, there are ways to sort of cheat the system or to do some, that's not even trickery. It's just, sort of pre-planning. Now, on the other side of things, if we ever had to, we do have a much newer mirrorless Canon, right? This is the EOS. And then we've got an amazing lens here. This is the 24-105, and this is my new go-to for fucking everything. And I'm trying not to cuss, but I just did. It would be nice not to have a potty mouth. It would be nice to show some couth. So I'll do my best. But that is my go-to for pretty much everything. So if you just need to if you've got a little bit more money, that's a great solution. What I just showed you. So that is something to think about. And oops, I didn't. I should transition to this so you can see it better. Anyway, so that camera there was the EOS R, but this one now you can see it a little bit bigger. This here is I can put this behind it so maybe you can even see it better. There you go. There's the camera, 5D Mark III with the old school 1.4 50 millimeter. An amazing lens. The camera's good too, but the lens will outlive that camera. The lens will probably outlive pretty much every camera. This lens is also kind of funny because at some point in my life, I dropped it and broke it. And then one day it started to work again. So I don't know if me and this lens are working on borrowed time. Pinion, where you at, buddy? Here, bud. You ready? Boom. I don't know if me and this lens are working on borrowed time, but whatever. We gotta put a card into the camera here. Beep, beep, beep. It should come back to life. There it is. So let's talk about other things we've got here. So these things, whenever you're doing product photography, these are almost always like, you got to have cleaner. You got to have a towel of some sort. This is a little canned air dust thing. That's important, but I try to use that as little as possible because canned air goes fast and it's kind of expensive. This is a water bottle, which you can also use for cleaning, just a general purpose sort of clean if you don't want to get chemicals out and cleaner everywhere. But for rocks, it has a special purpose, and I'll talk about that in just a second. This is also sort of like a very specific thing that we use when we're dealing with rocks in particular, not so much other photography. We talked about this. One thing we didn't talk about is this glass table. This glass table is, well, it's glass, so that means that we can shoot through it. Now, if you didn't have a glass table, which provides an amazing surface to work on, you would have to get a shoot-through table, and then this piece of plastic, which is, fairly soft and moldable and easy and pliable. At that point, really what you need is they have these acrylic tables. And then this becomes a much more sturdier. It's either hard plastic, hard acrylic, or it's a thicker type with sort of a lot more strength and heft to it. This is not. This is very sort of like maybe just like 2 or 3 pieces of standard copy paper thickness, maybe more like 6, but still, it's fairly easy to work with. And I'm using clamps to clamp it to a table, and then in the back, I actually have a small light stand that just kind of comes up, and I have an old school yardstick that I am then clamping the yardstick to the light stand, and then I'm using these little pinch A clamps to clamp the plastic to the yardstick, right? So it kind of acts as like a crossbar, the yardstick. It actually worked out really well. I was trying to figure out if I had another more impressive way to connect this thing, and then I was like, oh wait, this yardstick and these clamps will probably work. And that's really kind of what photography is in a nutshell. It's kind of like, oh, this might work, and it either does or it doesn't. And if it does, you save yourself probably $500, and if it doesn't work, then you probably cost yourself about $500. So, that's kind of like there's a medium cost in photography to solve a problem, and I actually would say it's probably like $30 on average. You want to solve a problem, I'd say most of the time it costs like $30. So always trying to save $30. But you know what? You avoid spending that $30 10 times, and you saved yourself $300. You know what I mean? So I like to call myself the cheap photographer. Some things you need to spend money on, but you never need to spend as much money as you think you do, that's for sure. And when you're just starting out, then and money is at a premium, like your own personal inflation is something, right? Like it doesn't matter what the dollar is worth to everybody else or the economy. It's like, what is the dollar worth to you? For a lot of people, $1 is worth a lot more than to other people. And we are, and I have always been an industrial designer, which means I work for like large companies, but I don't do the flashy things, except for the fact that I'm using a flash, but we'll get to that in a second. So like, I've never been in charge of the multi-million-dollar campaigns. I've been in charge, and I've worked on $100,000 plus campaigns, several $100,000, but I was just a cog on the wheel, you know what I mean? I was just a gear tooth. So it's not like I made a whole bunch of money. So for me, the dollar still has a value, has a real, the single dollar still has a real value. And when I spend one, I feel it. You know what I'm saying? All right. So what we are going to do here is take some pictures. So we actually have a rock right now sitting here on our and if I take a picture, is anything happening here? Oh, I think our batteries might be dead. That's fine. Okay, so anyway, in the meantime, let's take a look at this. This is kind of what our photos look like right now when we're not touching anything. That should be like that. Oh, this should be... Let's get back over into manual mode here. There we go. This should be pretty much pitch black. That's pretty much pitch black. So what we use to sort of fight that problem, maybe it's cool that we get to show this, show the before, is that we use Studio Flash. Studio flash, or any flash, it doesn't matter if it's in your studio or outside of your studio. Studio flash is just a manner in which you add some measure of artificial light to your scene. And if you're new to photography, artificial light is usually one of the scariest things. It's scary for people who have been doing photography for a decade, let alone for people who have never touched it before. Now, I wanted to do and use artificial light right out of the bat because when I was learning photography, one of the people that I looked up to, his name was Joe McNally. Not only is he an amazing flash photographer, but he just has good advice. And he says, you know, everybody always talks about like I'm a natural light or I am an available light photographer, because I think that's, you know, he was basically saying that's just people being safe. That's just people being safe. Because what if there is no available light? Then you're not a photographer, right? That was kind of his point. He's like, if you call yourself an available light photographer, well, the moment there's no available light, you're not a photographer anymore. And I always thought that was kind of an interesting way of saying, or at least it just made me think, oh yeah, that's true. So here's a picture that we just took right now. That is a crystal. How cool is that? All right, let me go like this. And then, you know, there's a lot of texture and information. These are not like, you know, the world's most smoothest stones. And you can see as we bring the exposure down, you can see just how dirty that white background is. But you also notice that when we have it dialed in correctly here, all that stuff is pretty much gone. And by the time we're done, it will be completely gone. So that was something we've been planning for and we've been working on. So anyway, this is not exactly what we're doing here. This is just me sort of test firing, making sure all the equipment works. Mostly the flash, and just to get back to that concept of flash, you know, this idea of available flash or being a flash photographer. Well, here's the thing. If you bring your own light, then guess what's always available to you? Light. You can actually take the picture. You can take the picture in any circumstance. In fact, if you get really good at flash, you can start to create things that isn't available to anybody else, and it doesn't even exist for anybody else. You take enough flash outside, even on a sunny day, and you can overpower the sun. You know what I mean? It's like all of a sudden you're able to take a picture that nobody else out there with a camera can take. And that can be really, really cool and lead to some really interesting effects. You can create surreal effects where the sun is right behind your subject, and instead of being completely blown out, because we've all done this, you've gone out and taken a photo on a sunny day. You know what happens? You end up with a photo that is nuclear white. It has no definition whatsoever, right? But if you know how to use your flash, you can turn that into something absolutely amazing. You can dim down the sun, the most powerful light in our solar system, without measure. And, you know, people will really start to notice you when you're able to do things like that. And I'm not even kidding. Like, for me, it was actually kind of a game changer. But I digress. Let's keep moving forward here, and then as I'm moving forward, I'll sort of talk about what we're doing. So this is not a fake project. This is a real thing that we're doing here. And part of this real thing that we're doing is just us taking photos of these rocks. And the reason being is that they use these rocks for their social media, for their publications, I'm sure online stores, all types of cool things, right? So what I like to do is I like to create these piles. And with something like a quartz This is a really interesting and sort of fun thing to do because there's a lot of translucency, right? So what I'm doing is I'm using this sort of this round circular, this is literally just a cake pan frame. It's got the buckle on there for releasing your cake pans. And then I'm just going to start, I'm going to sort of strategically place a couple more stones here. That's a nice one. All right. And then go like that, and then I'm gonna take a picture, and then we're gonna describe kind of what's happening. And then I've got this thing here. This is actually a record, a demo record, but it's also a really nice white. And I've been using this for the better part of a year for anything but the record inside. The music in here is really good, but the record itself has an amazing use. All right, so we just took a picture, and let's go out and take a look at that picture, shall we? Shall we? We can turn this off. Okay, there we go. So there is our photo, and our photo looks pretty cool actually. Everything's focused, and look how sharp and just how much definition there is. Even the edges look clean. So let me talk about what we're doing here and why we're doing what we're doing. Okay, so the first thing is we're using flash. Not only are we using flash above, but we're also using flash below. So if we go here to this outside shot, this black thing here that you can just barely see, this is actually a light. You can see the light on my hand. And then right over here, whoop, there it is. You see a little bit of a light kind of right here. That's actually under the table. And look how dirty this table is. But don't judge me for the table. It's going to get dirty. We could clean it. It's just going to get dirty in just seconds. But underneath here is another light, okay? So we have a light coming up from below, and we have a light coming down from above. And because this plastic is translucent, you can actually see the light through it. So if we turn off this real quick, you can see how much darker it gets. So we'll turn everything back on. Sorry, my camera is plugged into the power source, so when I turn that off, everything gets turned off. And so when you look at these photos that we're taking right here, that photo right there, what happened to our transition, man? There it is. That photo is being lit from above and below. And also, I showed you this guy, right? This guy right here. And the reason why this record thing is so important, this guy, is because you'll notice that the light is kind of behind. So if I drop this against the edge and it's pointed straight down, look at that. Maybe it's hard to tell, but it actually lights way back here. Now we could push things back, and we do sometimes push things back when needed. But in order to get a little bit more of that light in the front, we use this to sort of bounce the light, hits this and then kind of bounces right back. And the reason why we do it is for two reasons. One, we've got the camera is right above the product, and I don't want the camera to be blocking the light. You can do that in some circumstances, but right now, the way that I have it set up is perfect for us, okay? Absolutely A-okay. And by using a bounce card, it doesn't really matter because we're able to take any extra light and still have really even light. So that's a nice way to sort of do a lighting setup where you're only using 2 lights, but you effectively get the power of 3 lights. Okay, so there, I've actually moved this just a little bit closer. There we go. Hopefully that doesn't annoy you having this big thing in the frame, but that's just the way it works, okay, y'all? And I think we're still good here. That shouldn't mess anything up. There we go. So I've moved the camera, I've moved the products, everything. Okay, so that's the way that we want it. So now things are looking good, okay? And we'll switch back over so you can see the desktop. And so here is our, this is our kind of our first picture. So now why are we using this? Why are we using the cake frame? Well, the cake frame sort of actually allows us to have a little bit of reflections around the edge. So if I get rid of the cake frame and we take a picture, you'll see how bright the edges. Oh no, oh no, no, no. Put that back. You'll see how bright the edges get. And if we go to our previous picture, see how much more definition we have here on the edges, that left edge of the rocks versus this right edge. And that definition is actually really, really, really important. You know, we're also going to be doing, in some cases, some Photoshop work to help clean things up a little bit and to separate it off of the white background. And that just, it makes such a big difference. Such a big difference. Massive difference. Massive. The other thing we can always do is that because we have a light down here underneath, sometimes it's a good idea to sort of find out kind of like where that center is, which appears to be kind of like right here. You can see just barely the shadow. I'll put this guy kind of over top of it. And then we will center our camera here to that rock. And we're going to do that because, you know, if we can sort of center the camera on that center light, then we're just going to have a better time all around. All right, so then the other thing that we're trying to do here is to get, we have bags of rocks, and we want to get a multitude of rocks. We want to have several of these pile pictures. We're shooting for about 6 if possible. You know, easier to get with some, because some, like, it's hard to explain, but with rocks, it's a bit of a moving target with how many piles you can get out of something. This might sound ridiculous, but if somebody hands you 50 pounds of rocks, I'd say on average we get about 60 pounds per, or no, actually, I guess it's probably closer to like maybe 100. So we get like 100 pounds of rocks, right? Well, if somebody hands you, you know, 4 rocks, each one weighs 25 pounds, or somebody hands you like a bag, and the bag has like 2,000 little rocks in it, but it also weighs 100 pounds. It's way easier to work with the tiny rocks, right? You could get 50 piles out of those tiny rocks. You know, with the big rocks, you can only get like 1 pile, right? If you've only got 4 stones to work with, you know, you're not going to get multiple variations out of that. You're either just taking single individual pictures of each pile. Look at that. That looks so nice. That looks so nice. So, I mean, you know, like you just saw, it takes a pretty good amount of stones to make a pile. We're only 2 piles into this, too. You know what I mean? So we've got a ways to go here. And one of the rules are when you're making these piles, and this pile, you know, this whole pile concept is sort of unique to our need. Nothing I'm doing here is anything that you have to do. You know, I have this amazingly eclectic sort of wealth of stones to photograph here. Look at this guy. All right, we're setting him aside. That guy is getting set aside. And there's a reason for that. We'll talk about that in a second here. You know, we have this amazing wealth of sort of stones and different varieties and shapes. And, you know, crystals are like snowflakes, people. No two are the same. And that's true. Their crystalline structure is the same, but sort of their final form is completely different. That's a pretty good pile. what I'm doing for is like I have my live view on the back of the camera so I can kind of see what it is I'm doing. Because really what I want to make sure is when I take a picture, I don't want a bunch of white space, right? Like that's not a big deal. But if there was a massive gap of white in those stones, that would really be annoying. That would really, really, really be annoying. All right, so we've got 3 photos now, and we want 6. And 6 gives us a variety. Because, you know, I think really what you want is, let's say you're trying to get 4 or 5, or I'm sorry, you're trying to get 1 or 2 really good photos. Getting 6 photos is a great way of sort of hedging your bets towards something being amazing. So one of the things that they always talk about in photography is, and this is kind of an advanced concept, or at least you kind of have to either stumble across it or you find it usually through other research or through further learning, something called bracketing. And bracketing is like when your camera, and iPhones can do it too, and so can Androids, but you know it's originally done on DSLRs and SLRs, old school cameras. Isn't it funny how like the DSLRs and the SLRs are now the old school cameras? But anyway, bracketing is a technique where you take a photo and you're not taking just one photo. You actually end up taking like, you know, 7, you know, at least 2 photos, but more likely somewhere between 3 and 7. And the reason why you take 3 to 7 photos is because, and you take them, I guess I should qualify this as you're taking cameras at different exposures. So what the first photo is usually taken at what is considered proper exposure, and then your other photos are taken at plus or minus exposure. So darker in some degrees or brighter in some varying degrees. And the reason why you do that is because chances are the photo that you want, the one that looks best, is in there. So, you know, you're presented with a beautiful mountain scene at sunset, and there's a lake in front of you, and there's, you know, the mountain is bright, but the lake is dark, and the trees are dark, but maybe the highlights on the water are super bright, and the sky's too bright, or, you know, there's, when you go outside, or even when you're taking a picture of a person, you know, there's a lot to control. You're trying to get an infinite, you know, almost an infinite variation in lighting degrees, or at least you're trying to get the greatest amount of range of light into one single photo. That is hard. I mean, that's the thing all photographers struggle with. I mean, whenever somebody takes a bad photo, you know, the composition obviously can be part of the problem, but, you know, the biggest problem for like the pros, once you've figured out what it is and how to take your photo, the biggest problem is, you know, controlling the light, because without light, there is no photo. Photography breaks down into its Latin root words, photographos, which means to write with light. So if you don't have the light, you cannot write. And I think Johnny Cochran said that. All right. It's getting a little dusty here. These are like, I mean, you know, when we look at these things, these look crystal clear, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, but they're not. They are dirty AF. Because they come from the ground. They come from dirty places. They bring their dirt with them. You know what I mean? That's a fiver. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm kind of starring them at the bottom. I'm rating them. And I do that because that way I can keep track. And once I know that I've gotten a good picture. But anyway, to go back to the bracket, you take multiple exposures of maybe the same picture in order to hedge your bets that somewhere in those pictures you've got the proper exposure. And if nothing else, if all else fails, you've got 2 or more photos for which you can then Photoshop or composite a photo that has the right exposure. Now, some people think that shit is BS. You know, the moment that you start to composite anything, they're like, well, you're cheating. I don't believe in that. I do believe it is. I do believe it's 2 completely different styles. You know, it's 2 completely different approaches. Just like in oil painting, there are wet methods and dry methods, mix on canvas methods. There's all different types of ways of doing it. You know, it'd be like saying Bob Ross. It'd be like, you know, Da Vinci telling Bob Ross that he's cheating because of the way that he's doing it, or vice versa. You know what I mean? And that's just not how it actually. That's just not how it works. There is no real cheating in that respect. It's just a different method. Oh man, that is a really, really good pile. That's a good pile. What a weird thing to say. Okay, so we've taken 6 piles, okay? We're not done though. We got other things we need to do. Now it's phase 2, and phase 2 is dramatically different. So let's put this piece of wood here. Try to get these all in this one basket. Some rocks stack and adhere to each other better than others. You know, we're starting off with sort of a best case scenario here for stones. Move those off to the side. Okay, so we've got this white piece of wood here. It's actually a little bit dirty, so I'm going to use some water and get our towel from earlier and wipe this down. And it goes from, you know, barely white to slightly more white. We're going to put this here in our playing field, and then I've got this little wooden box frame that I made. I'm going to lay this down here too. So now we've got 2 components. And then I'm actually going to fill this frame with the rocks. Some rocks you have to be way more careful with than others because some rocks are extremely fragile. All right, let's put this guy's. We want to get a separate picture of that one rock. So we're going to put him off to the side. And because these stones kind of come from all over the place, you see some really weird things. Like, I've done this and I've taken pictures. There's a lot that come from, I think, Peru or somewhere, maybe it's multiple places, covered, like they just come covered in mule hair. Just like you open up the box and it is just a mule hair fiesta. There's so much. I mean, that's, you know, I guess you got to get those things back and forth between the mines and the and your client somehow, and mules fit the business. Okay, so one more thing. I should switch over to big view real quick, and then I will check also to see if we have any questions coming in. I think we're all good. Everybody seems to know what's going on. So I'm going to take our little whiteboard, and I'm going to use some A-clips. I'm just going to clip it here. And this is really important for these box shots, which I'm going to talk about here in a second. But this really just sort of helps me keep a field of nice and even lights, okay? All right, so let's get focused. I'm going to take a picture and then see how this looks. And that looks good. I mean, this is kind of what the box photos look like. You know, we're not lighting them from beneath anymore. We're only lighting them from above. So it's going to be a little bit darker, but that's not a problem because if we felt like we needed to, we have a lot of latitude. Here, I should switch over so you can see what I am. This is you know, let's go from, this is the picture we just took versus our, you know, it's a lot brighter. So, you know, if we have to, we can just go ahead and ramp this up about, it looks like it's just about a 6 or a half, somewhere between a half and a 6 of an exposure stop. And that's great. Not an effing problem. We don't mind that at all, y'all. Okay, so let's do, oh, and then there's another thing we can do real quick here. We've got this. This is a white balance card. I might take a picture of this right now, just so we know what the white balance actually is. And then another thing that we do for these, and this is kind of cool, if I can find it, here it is. We want to know how big these stones are. So what we do is we have this ruler, and I try to position it as best as I can at the bottom. Let's take a look, make sure I got that. Ooh, it's a little crookedy. Let's see if I can do that. Let's see if I can do that only like not crappy. Let me try that one. All right, there we go. And then let's go ahead and get a photo. And if you see those like marks there on the side, the left side of the frame, it's a bunch of black hashes. Those are actually inch marks as well, because if for some reason I forget to get a photo of the ruler, I can use those as a reference, because even with that photo, with the ruler in it, I still need to Photoshop it because it's just so big, kind of obnoxious. All right, so all we did was we sort of moved things around a little bit. I'm going to spray them. So I'm wetting these down to give them a little bit more glisten. That's also one of the reasons why they're a little bit darker. You know, there's not as much dust sort of catching the light, so they are coming back a little bit darker. So there we go. There's 2, and we're going for 6 of these as well. And the reason why we move them around is because we want them to look like, you know, basically a different picture every time here. And here's one of the cool properties of any type of rock is the following. So even though these are all the exact same rocks, if I take this picture and then you and I, we look between this frame and the last frame, so we'll mark that, and then look. Like you could not look between these two and find the similar rocks, right? And the reason because of that is, which is very nice, is that if you take a rock, right? Here's a rock, and then you just turn it, it's completely different. It's completely different from every angle, you know? So while it might be more obvious which rocks would be the same in the piles, that's why we don't use the same rocks for piles, it is completely unobvious when you're working with a multitude of rocks like this. You know, in this case here, like I said, in the piles, you can't really get away with using the same ones and just sort of jiggling them around. I've done it before, but you have to literally hand turn them to make sure none of them are the same. That's number 4, and then we need 2 more. One, and then we can always just come over here and press this button. It's F12, isn't it? F12. All right, and then we just need 1 more. And I will say again, these are really we have picked a stone today that's really, really easy to do. There we go, and here we go, 1, 2, 3. So there we go, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so the last thing we have to do now is to get what they call the hand photo, and the hand photo is literally just that. We need to pick out several nice samples of their rocks. You know, for a size like this, probably about 3. We're going to put them in our hand, like, if you can see that, but sort of like 1, 2, and then maybe like 3 or something like that. But we want a variety. And you'll see here in just a second what I'm talking about. And then I'm going to put my hand in the frame like this. 1, 2, 3. And then let's see what we get here. And there you go. That is what a hand photo looks like. And the reason why we do this is because, you know, you want to see sort of the individual nature of all the rocks, all the individual types of sizes, because there's a big range of sizes here. Like that was sort of a big hand. So now maybe what we'll do is go the opposite. In fact, let's do, I like doing this. I like taking a bunch of rocks, maybe like 4 or 5, and kind of lining them up based on size, different colors and stuff. That way people can really just see like a big variety. So this is a nice one right here. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh, and by the way, like your backs will hurt, your shoulders will hurt. I mean, this is not like this is not like traditional back breaking. We're not digging these out of the rocks. I'm sure that really sucks, although they probably have tools. But you know, this is like every time I lean over and I sort of crane my arm around. How many do we got so far? We got 1, 2, 3. So we need 3 more. I like to get basically 6 of everything, okay? So let's get this guy. Let's get this dark guy here. And then this guy here is kind of, he got some sort of colored schmutz on him. And that's important. You know, I've been told that it's important to sort of get the full range of colors and quality. Because we're trying to represent the rocks in a very realistic manner. We're not trying to be super selective. Look at this. This guy's a long one. So we've got 4 so far, right? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a nice. Oh man. You know, these are easy to take photos of. Some stones are just not fun, honestly, and some are just awesome. Let's get a bunch of small ones here. That's cool. Oh, we have a mover. It would be nice to have like a foot pedal. There we go. So that should be 6, right? Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that right? Yeah. 5. Okay, cool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there you go. So that's what an entire series of rocks looks like when you photograph them. So now the next step will be is to do a couple things. One, I like, for my own records, you take your cell phone, and I'm going to get a picture of the rocks, and then I'm going to get a picture of the name of the type of rocks. So beer quartz points here. That way later on when I have to name these and get them all set up and export them for their file usage and all that stuff, I've got it all and I don't have to guess. I've done it in the past where I've had other people in charge of it, and then you go to look at it and you're like, oh no, their method is not what I need. I have no idea what these files are. What is this rock? Because there are times where, you know, editing these things, this is not like a fast gig. Like, think about it. We just spent the better part of an hour just getting these photos done. Now, in the next one, the clock is running. I'm keeping track here. For the next photos, let's see how fast we can go. All right. So I may not even talk. Well, I certainly won't walk us through the process, but I'm not gonna talk too much through it. And by the way, usually these things come in boxes. When they come in boxes, it's so much easier to sort of get everything back in there. When they come in bags, it's kind of a handful at a time type of deal. All right, we're getting there though. All right. Put that bag aside. We've got, it's kind of hard to see, but we got these little sandy, gritty parts. So I'm just going to come over here to a trash bag that I got. And I'm going to just wipe those into there. And then let's just go ahead and pre-clean this guy. All right. So let's just have some fun here. Let's start a timer. Start stopwatch. Talking to Siri. All right, our stopwatch is at 0. Let's hit start. Okay, I'm gonna go grab another bag. I don't have the rocks up here, they're downstairs, so hang on. All right, so without a doubt, I have probably 1,500 pounds. I'm not even joking. Probably about 1,500 pounds worth of rocks that we need to take photos of. And we probably just took a picture of like somewhere between 80 and 100 pounds of them. But here's a whole new type. Here's a whole new type of rock here. And I know that I said I wasn't going to talk too much while we're doing this, but I think it's important just to see kind of what we got here. See how small these are by comparison. So let's get rolling here. So far on our countdown, we're already at a minute. Just getting rocks, just going downstairs and grabbing some rocks has cost us a minute. Okay, let's put this up here. These are really, really small, right? So remember what I said about how the small rocks are infinitely easier to take pile pictures of? Watch this. Look at that. One little tiny handful. One little tiny handful. And we got a cool pile. That easy. I mean, already so much faster. Let's take a picture, see if we need our, oh, I'll switch over. Oh, God, what was that? Oh, it's this guy. All right, let's switch over here. We are 2 minutes in. But there's our pile. And yeah, that looks awesome. Maybe try to get, I'm gonna try to get a little bit more in there real quick. The edges are just so lost because they're so translucent. I'm just trying to get like a thicker pile in the middle to sort of cut the light transmission. So at least a part of the pile really kind of represents the color and stuff. Yeah, that's way better. Way better. Okay, cool. Cool, man, cool. And then also what we're going to do is, remember our frame that we had? Our frame-a-dee doodad? Let's go ahead and just put him off to the side, and as we finish piles of rocks, we'll just start putting them into the frame. That way, when it does come time to just... Oh, and by the way, the frame is not manufactured very well because I'm not a woodworking god. So there's all these little gaps. So one of the things that we do at the end of the day is we comb the floor like super sleuths. We find every little piece of rock that falls. Like we just had 1, 2, 3 fall right there, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's get these real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, and 11. Is that it? Oh, 2 more. See, that's the thing. When I say we really comb it, because we don't want to, I mean, you know, this is somebody else's stuff. You know what I'm saying? So just do what's right. And be polite, respectful of other pieces, things. But you can already see it's like we're losing time. 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes. We're actually taking more time wrangling the stones than we are photographing the stones. And that's annoying, but that is also extremely common in what we're doing. So, you know. All right, here we go. The nice thing about these round cake pans too is that I can really sort of shape and wrangle the stones. All right, that's gonna be good. Yep, looks nice. And I'm gonna be honest with you, because these are so small, I don't think I'm going to really bust my booty. And by the way, there's a lot of these. So these, there's kind of a, in my head, there's sort of a difficulty chart regarding stones in piles. You know, and there's also a big difference between smooth stones, because these are smooth, and rough. Rough stones are so much easier to make a pile of. I mean, as you can imagine. There are times where you get these stones that are basically marbles. These at least are not perfect circles. You know, they're like just very finely polished pebbles. And they're flat and they're round and, you know, they're not symmetrical. But man, oh man, there are times where you basically get marbles, or what they call eggs, which are like these beautiful but just incredibly polished egg shapes, or these barrels. I mean, as soon as you've got anything that's round, spherical, or cylindrical that's polished, dude, your life is over. I mean, you're going to spend like 10 minutes on each effing pile. You know what I mean? Because it's just like they roll, they don't stack at all. And you don't want to just have like a bunch of flat. So you really become sort of like a wizard. There's this Japanese guy who can balance anything, right? So you really kind of have to channel him. Let's see where we are here. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 4. That first one don't count. But yeah, so like these tiny ones like this, incredibly hard to wrangle. And then there's a size of irregular polished above this, which are way easier to work with, what they call extra small. I mean, this is way smaller than extra small. But there is an extra small that's really easy to sort of work with. And then small irregular shapes are really, really, really easy to work with. And then as you start getting bigger, it gets harder because the small ones tend to have more like friction for each other, so you can do more with them in terms of piling and stuff. Okay. And then you get into what's called the roughs, and the roughs aren't finished at all. I mean, basically those quartz ones that we just took a picture of, they would be considered rough because they're not polished. You know, they kind of come out shiny, but you know, they were not hard to stack at all. Roughs are really, really easy to stack, whereas the polished ones are usually harder to stack. Roughs are easier to stack. But when it comes to like the edge-to-edge pictures in the framed box, roughs are way more hard to deal with because they have so much friction and they interlock so hard. I usually wear gloves because trying to move a bunch of rough stones around, especially sharp, jaggedy rough stones, which is what they usually are, it hurts, dude. Ain't gonna lie, it actually kind of hurts. All right, that should be 6. Now these are going to be a pain in the butt to edit in Photoshop, but we might use some tricks. We might use some tricks here. All right. So there we go. We have all of our framed photos are done. Let's see if we can get these in my hand without. Yes. I'm sorry. All of our piles are done. So now we can get the frame into frame. The frame just sort of lifted off. So you know, have you ever like tried to hold sand in a cup? It doesn't want to. It's like, screw you, dog. You're not my real dad. I'll do whatever I want. That is definitely what's happening right now. But here's the nice thing about really small, smooth things in a box. This is where we're going to save some time. Check this out. All right, let's get remember our white reflector. Get that back in there. Let's get a picture. This will be our first test picture. 1, 2, 3. We don't need a white balance card because we've already got that. There we go. That looks nice. Let's get our ruler in there. All right. So we got one. I am going to do my best, sort of. There we go. Okay, now, in order to make this look like a new thing, you just barely have to brush your hand over top of this. Just like that. There we go. Let me guarantee you, it's a brand new field of stone. Look at that. Between that and that, you would never know those are the same stones. Same thing. Just kind of go through it, a little bit of fingers. Really easy. That part is really, really, really easy. Hit F12, we'll compare these two. Here's one. Like you just would never know. It's like there's so many stones here that just shifting them uniformly from one to the other an inch is basically all it takes. Same thing. Give that guy a 5. Looking so good. I have no idea what that is. All right. Side to side, up and down. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Picture. Looking good. Our last one, like this. Again, just a nice sort of soft touch here. That's all it takes. Hit that. So now we got to get our hand pictures. Remember those? So this is a little weird because there's just so many. So many little things. So this is going to be a bit tough, but we'll do our best. What I like to do with these kind of hand pictures is are, is, am. I don't know. What's the correct terminology here? Like what I'll try to do is I'll try to get like something a little geometric kind of going on here. Let's see what that looks like. There you go. See, literally, I'm just like taking a shape, a geometric shape. And that's just, it just, you know, at least gives you something to look at. The thing is about like the palm of a human hand, not really meant to hold on to anything, as it turns out. Stones, rocks, everything loves just loves to run away from your fingers. You think, especially when things get this small and this minute, you know, trying to convince your hand to sort of hold on to something is a zero-sum. Oh, that was, I know what that is. Okay, so here we go. Remember those really gross candies that came on a piece of paper that you would peel off? That's what I feel like these are. You know, with these small ones, all the time that we saved before we've lost. Because it just takes so much effort to sort of get things together here. I think that's 3. We dropped 1, so here it is. Doink. Is that 3? Yep, that's 3. You can't see me right now, but in my off camera, I'm just trying so hard to sort of come up with shapes that look like I care. You know what I mean? Because I do care. But as much as I care, it's like you don't want to spend 17 minutes doing this. This might be an interesting. Let's try this. Let's just get like a handful of them. Like it's kind of cool. I think this gives us options. You know what I'm saying? Like on the back end, if we get in there and we're like, oh, you know, it's really hard to see how small they are. You know, it's much easier to see their scale on your hand. Like that's the nice thing about the hand. The hand really gives you a scale because people's hands. I mean, I'm not Andre the Giant, but most people aren't either. So, all right, now comes the fun part of trying to get these things back into this bag. They're so small, you can't. I don't know if you can see, but they're sort of spilling out of the edge here. Here, let's go like this. Not like that. Not that edge. Nope, not this either. What am I doing? Help! Help! Is that it? No. There it is. Look how much this stuff is just pouring out. Come back, little dude. See if I can get this bag sort of like actually actually open to the point where I can put things in it. Oh yeah, now I dropped a good handful here. 1, 2, there he is. Is that it? That's it, okay. Now in a perfect world, what I could do is basically mold a piece of acrylic that's sort of like flat and then sort of scooped down, and then just clamp it here to the side of the table so I could just go like that. And I've thought about it. I don't do, if I only did the small ones, it'd be done by now. But this is like kind of the first time I'm really doing these in sort of any actual quantity. So while I've thought about it, there it is. Oh, there's the other one. Oh, and there's the other one. So while I've thought about it, I haven't done it. I haven't had to do these in any like absolutely insane amount here. Oh, now before we finish, I need to get our phone photo here of this. Okay, and these are just called agate. And just so we know, right now, we're at 19 minutes, basically 20 minutes, and we're not even done with this yet. Interestingly enough, it's hard for me to say if this process goes faster with another person. I've done it with other people before, and it's hard to tell. It might just be a wash, to be honest with you. Okay. Natural rough citrine. This is our next guy. And the natural rough citrine looks astonishing. Just astonishing. Look at that. I mean, that just looks like broken glass. It's so clear. Whoops. There we go. The nice thing is it's a rougher stone, and that just means that this is kind of best case scenario. I'm not going to kid you. So the last one was sort of threw us for a little bit of a loop, but this guy here might be the redeemer. Just trying to get a nice pile here. I'm looking through our viewfinder here so I know kind of where the middle is, so I can build from that. Now, when I had originally designed this lighting setup, it was actually so there'd be a little bit of a shadow. Wouldn't you know it? There'd be a little bit of a shadow. But let's face it, you know, when you're shooting clear things, there really isn't much of a shadow. So that is something to you just have to sort of remember these things in the moment, because there might be times when your client's like, well, where's the shadow on the glass? Where's the shadow on the clear thing you took a picture of? And you can be like, oh, well, see, there isn't a shadow, because for the most part, under these particular circumstances, something clear is not going to cast a shadow. I already messed up our I messed up our thing already, so we're just kind of doing it over. What I'm doing now is I'm just trying to aim stones to fill spots where there seems to be bare table underneath. There we go. That should be it. All right, 1, 2, 3. Let's take a picture, see what it looks like. This could be a wild card here. Oh man, I mean, like you can see a couple spots in there that look like there's nothing. Right, this one here is so bright and so clear, and this guy here. So we basically just kind of have to go and double up. You know what I mean? So remember when I said these were kind of like best case scenario for stacking? I'm taking that back real quick. There we go. That's a good one though. All right. You can hear me like trying to manage these rocks in the background. All right. Now when you do it the right way, or when it works out the best, usually what you can do is just reach in. Again, it's really hard with these bags. Ugh. But you get the double-handed fist, and then you can kind of lay it down like that and get a good foundation. Let's see here. That's a good sized pile, actually. It's also like a really weird sort of best case size scenario for like pile sizes too, which is hard to judge when you're in the middle of it. Because when a pile doesn't work out, the initial feeling is to make it bigger or add to it. And then you can just end up with these absolutely massive piles of stones. All right, here we go. Oh, that's nice. Look at that. That's a really cool piece. Okay. Looking good. I think that's 3, right? Is that 4? Oh, no, that's still got to be 3. 1. Oh, but see, look at this. You see what's happening? Let's try that. There we go. All right, 5 on that guy, 5 on that guy, 5. So we got 3. It's so translucent. It literally is so translucent, it's hard to just even get a photo of them. Isn't that crazy? There we go. Now I'm trying to anticipate the thin ones here and get something on top of them, so they're not too translucent. All right, there we go. That could be a great pile, or it could be crap. We'll only know once we take the photo. Oh no! This happens so often where you get like a good pile and then you're like, I just need to get this last stone on there. And the last stone is like, ha ha ha, screw your pile. And just takes a rock poop. A rock poop over everything you just did. Yeah, I'll take it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we've got 2 more to do here. Okay. So you remember how quick the little one piles that we just did occurred? Like just how fast those came together? Literally just take a handful, put it on the table, take a picture, pick them up, grab a new handful, take a picture, pick those up, grab a new handful. And you can see just how much more belabored it has become with these, which is weird because when we first started out, I said this is probably our best case scenario, but the truth is it's turned out to be a lot more challenging, right? Here we go. Awesome. Okay. We got a little bit of a sticky out here. Just try to push it in without. Also, symmetry, right? I want my rock piles to look fairly circular around the outside edges, but there are times where that is just that is perhaps not easy to come by. You know, we do our best to maintain an edge, but the truth of the matter is, it's like it is okay. These are piles of rough rocks, and it's almost nice to have sort of rough edges to them. I just don't want the edges to like really be out there. You know what I mean? Like I don't want them to be beyond rough. You know, I do want it to look pile-ish at the end of the day. I mean, what I said earlier about like kind of a handful of sand is what we're always trying to aim for here. I want it to kind of be a handful of sandish in terms of and its shape. You know, a handful of sand will find itself. Here we go. Get this before it dies on us here. Here we go. Is that it? That's it right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. So this took a lot more time to do the piles, but, and here's the great irony of these kinds of things, this sort of shape and this size will be a lot easier to do inside of our frame. Now that I can actually guarantee you. All right. So there we go. There's our stones inside of the frame. And we got a couple left here in the bag. Let's get those in there. No stone left unturned or unused. Or there's actually a lot of sort of some sandy sediment at the bottom of that bag. So we'll leave that in there. Okay. Oh, this is gonna be so much faster. Okay, check this out. First of all, this really does look awesome. I mean, say what you want, but stones are pretty cool. They are, in fact, pretty cool. All right, so let's start off. Let's just get our ruler photo first, okay? One pick to ruler them all. That should be it. Oh, so nice. All right, now we need to get our white card in there, our reflector. All right, and let's just go ahead and start getting picks. Watch this. Watch how fast this goes, all right? So 1. I'm literally just waiting to make sure that it comes up. And you know what I am going to do, though? Let me get these just a hint moist. They will turn literally to glass. Okay, ready? Here we go. Look at it. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? That's crazy. Okay. Oh, and the other thing I do need, see, look, I was like, oh, it's going to be so fast, and now it's like taking forever. No, not really. What I need is my gloves, because these will grip to each other, and they have sharp edges, and you will tear up your fingertips. So, white gloves, or yellow gloves. You ready? Here we go. Get into the corners. Sort of get everything mashed down, and then photo. Perfect. This big guy here is really obvious, so we're going to get rid of him. Nice. One, two, three. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5. I mean, we're almost done with these. Two, three, four, 5. Excellent. So that should be 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, we need one more. Here we go, and boom. There we go. 6. Okay. And then, just like before, we need to get our hand shapes in there. 1. Looking good. I mean, these are so easy, and they're not only are they easy, but these are just beautiful too. So it's like, 2. 3. I try to grab them like without any bias. You know what I mean? I mean, there's times where it's like, I'll see one, I'm like, that one's too cool not to have on there. 4. But for the most part, when I grab the rocks, I am trying to grab without choosing, if that makes sense. All right. I think this is going to be number 5 here. 5. And when you do kind of grab without choosing, then I think there's no sort of subconscious like, oh, that one's pretty, or you don't end up with, because there's a lot of times where, you know, a rock is a type of rock and you expect it to be blue. It's like, oh, it's some sort of teal, whatever. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then it actually isn't like that at all. It's not, you know, there's a lot of, I've done things that are like, you know, blue opal, and they are hella yellow. You know what makes them blue opal is like the little veins of blue in them. You know what I mean? Or whatever. And so you have to be careful not to go through and just constantly pick the bluest of the blue opals, because the blue opals might be predominantly not blue. And it's important to show that. You know, sooner or later somebody's going to end up with these rocks. And you don't want to give them the rocks that don't reflect what they're going to get. All right, we are now on the verge of being done with these. As soon as I get this in the bag and one fell on the floor, we're going to pick him up, put him in the bag, and as soon as we put this bag over there against the wall, ouch, like that actually hurt. See, this is why you should wear those gloves. See, I mean, this stuff, in some cases, I've never had it be as sharp as glass, but man, it is definitely related. All right, let's find that piece that fell. Where'd you go, dog? Where you at? Oh, there he is. Come here. Got him. Okay. And let's put this on the bag. This is the official symbol of we're done with that. And let's see how long this has taken exactly. We'll stop. Boom. Almost exactly 40 minutes. So that's 40 minutes, 4 seconds, or 40 minutes, 5 seconds. I mean, not bad. Not bad. So we just did a bunch of photos. Whew, goodness. Okay. But we ain't done. We got 3. I want to get 3 more done, guys. I want to get 3 more done. So let me go grab 3 more bags, and I'll go see if I can find like 3 interesting bags, okay? Oh my goodness. All right. Okay, where are we at here? All right, let me wash my hands. Your hands get really, really dirty. Speaking of washing, we do have a set of true rough stones coming up here. And the true rough stones are different than what we've been shooting, because these are just like, you know, they basically came out of a hole and somebody put them in a bag. Maybe after they ran through like a rock crusher or something like that. So let's do this. Ha, I see it. I'm also going to need a drink, so let me go ahead and grab our... We here promote healthy drinking. And so I drink a lot. A lot of the sparkling water stuff, man. I don't care the brand. I'm not a brand loyalist unless somebody wants to sponsor us. Oh, so good. Okay. I don't know if you guys ever watched. There used to be a show called Dual Survivor. And one guy, I think his name was Dave Canterbury, and the other guy's name was Cody London. And If you do remember it at all, you'll remember it because Cody was barefoot through the whole thing. Like literally. Oh my God! Just drop a rock on a glass table. He was barefoot through the whole. Even the dogs are frightened. We'll get a close up on these rocks in a second. Let me put this one aside. But anyway, my point is, he was barefoot. Like they would go out into the mountains, like the high Sierras. It would be snowing. It'd be like 3-foot deep snow, and he was basically barefoot. At the most, he wore like on the really, really cold spots, he had a pair of socks. But everything else he did barefoot. And if you look him up, his name is Cody Ludin, Cody Lundin. He's just such a character, such a caveman. But anyway, I'm using his knife. And I have to tell you, I'm a big fan of fixed blade knives. And this thing looks rough, and it is rough, but my God. I mean, it has held an edge for years, and I have done some gnarly stuff with it. My friends are all like, they're real hardcore knife collectors, but they're really into sort of the mechanical ones. I love these fixed blades, sort of old school. Okay. So these are all individually wrapped. That's another thing that is a time sink in this business. Is unwrapping every frickin' stone bag individually. These are beautiful, however, but I will show you what we're doing here in a second. Obviously, we need to unwrap them to take pictures of them, but there's